Overall, Barbie is a pretty decent movie that is essentially a hot pink Mattel-themed version of the hit 2003 Christmas movie Elf, starring Will Ferrell, who also happens to be in the Barbie movie as well as a pretty significant character. I will say that its 1 hour, 54-minute runtime is paced really well, and it jumps right into the action. And it is definitely worth the watch when it comes to streaming eventually, although I will say it probably was not worth the price of the movie ticket, in my opinion. As I mentioned, this movie is basically a Barbie reskin of Elf, which follows a character from Fantasyland where everything is perfect, who begins feeling a little bit of self-doubt and runs away to the real world, where they meet a person who introduces them to the struggles and harsh realities of everyday life. Eventually, our protagonist wins over the heart of the person in the real world, and they team up to blend the ideals of Fantasyland with actual land in order to save the day. While the plot is nothing revolutionary, despite what the BuzzFeed article writers want you to believe, I will say that the movie does a great job utilizing the previously on the decline Barbie IP in some really interesting cinematic ways. As most definitely not the target demographic of this film, I will say that the integration of the history of the toy line in a clever and creative way for the set, the costumes, and the themes of the movie, it was well done without being overbearing with the meta references, which there were a lot of, I will say, but I think it was tastefully done and creatively done as opposed to using it as a crutch. On the acting front, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling did a fantastic job as the leads, and the supporting cast, especially my boy Michael Cera as Allan, did a great job in terms of comedic relief. The Barbie movie also does a good job at being a movie for both kids and adults. Again, much in the same vein as Elf, as there are a lot of adult and more mature themes kind of underlying the kiddish and toy-like exterior. I thought that this was particularly apparent in the old school double entendre innuendo type dialogue that was sprinkled throughout the movie, such as the beach off, which was really kind of reminiscent of a lot of my favorite movies growing up in the early 2000s, like animated type movies such as Shrek and Toy Story, which did a lot of this type of dialogue and humor that passes right over younger kids' heads, no matter how many times they quote the lines or see the movie, and is really just written in for the parents. And then, later down the road, several years when they're rewatching the movies as teenagers, it's kind of like a buried landmine where they finally catch on and come to the realization that all these years that they've been quoting this line, it's actually been some sexual innuendo that they had no clue about when they were kids. Lastly, this Barbie movie review would not be complete without addressing the controversy behind it, and honestly, I do not understand what this controversy at all was. Apparently, some conservative circles out there started spouting that the Barbie movie was some anti-male feminist brainwashing propaganda. That caught wildfire. It most definitely is not. I don't see how people thought this at all, because by the end of the movie, the message throughout is pretty on the nose of being that people, regardless of if they are male or female, each kind of go through their own set of gender-specific problems, and at the end of the day, we should try to treat people the way we want to be treated. Essentially, the golden rule that we all learned during elementary school. So definitely not some revolutionary anti-men feminist propaganda, but something that is pretty universally accepted. Furthermore, to back up this claim, the Ken storyline was pretty much as prevalent throughout the entire movie as Barbie's, and in all honesty, like everything in this current outrage era, this outrage was likely just some rage bait articles designed to get clicks and promote hype for the movie that suckered a bunch of degenerate people on both sides of the political divide who have nothing better to do with their time than go on some ideological keyboard warrior crusade on their social media platform of choice. Anyways, with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give the Barbie movie a sapient score of 7.2 bananas. A decent movie through and through that wasn't too long and is worth a watch, although I will say it probably wasn't worth the $14 movie ticket. Thanks for tuning on in, and we'll catch you next time. Adios, amigos.